everybody, and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode, we're walking in Memphis. And this is going to be a special Walking in Memphis, as we are now in the month of July. All of the Walking in Memphis shows in July, as well as all of my It Came From the Network shows, are going to be themed. The theme? Jeremy's Christmas in July. We're partnering with my friend Bucky749, the American Samurai, and his brother Jeremy to bring you some Christmas-themed content for the month of July. Why not put smiles on people's faces? With that being said, the reason this show was picked, it was aired on December 23rd, 1989, thus making it the week of Christmas. And there are a few things in here that are related to that, which we'll get into when we get there. If you've not seen my shows before, I rate everything on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Let's jump right in. First match of the show, Dirty Dutch Mantel versus Keith Eric. We start off hot because Jerry Lawler is joining Dave Brown on commentary. Lance Russell isn't there. I don't know why I didn't follow through. But it does add to it. Lawler is great, as many people know that watched him through the Attitude Era. He's a great commentator. And this was a really good match. This is Lawler and Dutch Mantel were in one of their many feuds at this point. So he was deriding Dutch all through there. Dutch does pick up the win here. It was a good match. The commentary made it a little bit better than it was. Mostly just a glorified squash match. I'm giving this a 3. Dutch picks up the win on that. Rather enjoyable way to start the show. And next up we have, because we've managed to get into the time machine and go to a very integral part in history. And by the way, I forgot to mention this in the beginning. If you want to watch the show I'm reviewing, there will be a link down here in the description. Back to the show. Our time machine takes us back to a time where Memphis CWA was teaming up with what used to be World Class and now turned into USWA out of Texas. So we get a match from USWA, a very young Dustin Rhodes versus a wrestler who on the screen it says the Texas Battleship, but they keep calling him the Masked Eliminator, which is basically another one of the random masked gimmicks. A lot of times on these old territory shows, and even the WWE show, WWF at the time, or AWA, or whatever the national show, when they would have jobber matches, they would put just a random guy under a mask and give him a random name: Masked Eliminator, Masked Executioner. There was 8 million executioners, or probably 8 million eliminators. This wasn't that great of a match. You could see Dustin had something there, but it wasn't. It was just a quick match. Dustin does pick up at the win, and at the end, Gary Young and Skandar Akbar are coming to the ring, apparently to attack Dustin Rhodes, but it cuts off. They go back to to Dave Brown and Jerry Lawler. I'm so used to saying Lance Russell with Memphis Wrestling. It was probably my least favorite thing on the show, and I'm a huge Dustin Rhodes fan, so that's saying something. I love Gary Young, I love Skandar Akbar, so again, it just, what the USWA was doing did not fit with what CWA out of Memphis was doing, because Memphis, which I believe eventually became USWA, what Memphis was doing was so much better. And I'm not knocking World Class or Dallas or USWA, whatever you would call it at the time. Just the products were so different. It was a different... Memphis was always geared more of... The whole presentation, in my opinion, was better than a lot of the old territories. Dallas was deeply rooted. Dallas was more akin to what was being done in the AWA, where it was more of an old school vibe to it. And not saying that's wrong, not saying that that's bad. There's a lot of stuff from Dallas I really liked. It just didn't mesh well with what you were seeing coming out of Memphis. And the Memphis wrestlers were light years better, in my opinion. And Memphis did actually turn into USWA and engulf both of them. I'm giving this a 2. Like I said, my least favorite part of the show. Then we get some tape promos. Lawler talking about Christmas Chaos, where he's going to wrestle Dutch Mantel. Dirty White Boy talking about a match he has coming up with Chris Champion. And the highlight of this, and it's hard to say highlight when you have guys like Dirty White Boy and Jerry Lawler cutting promos when they're two great promos. A very young Master of Pain, which if you don't know who the Master of Pain is, take a look at this. You might get it by the picture. That's the Undertaker. So it's really cool to see Undertaker, pre-Mean Mark Callis here. I thought this was a good segment. I'm giving this segment a 5. Next up, we get another in-progress Tag Team Championship match. It's Jeff Jarrod and Mattbourne defending against Robert Fuller and Brian Lee. This is a very young Brian Lee here, and of course, Jeff Jarrett's very young as well. Again, from USWA, which was differentiated as Dallas at this point. The reason they show this is because Fuller and Lee do beat Jarrod and Bourne to win the championship. Decent. I would have liked to see the full match. I like all 4 of these guys. Mattbourne, I think, is highly underrated. Robert Fuller, most people know for his Tennessee Lee or Colonel Parker gimmicks. But he was a great wrestler in his time. Brian Lee would go on to much better things. Mostly, his most impressive runs were with Smoky Mountain and ECW, in my opinion. I mean, he's a solid wrestler too. Fuller and Lee pick up the win. I'm giving it a 3. I wish we could have seen the full match. Next up, we had a match that I was a little bit surprised with. The Grappler versus Chris Champion. And I was a little bit surprised here because, hindsight being 2020, the Grappler is a way bigger legend than Chris Champion is. And it almost felt like they were using the Grappler as an enhancement guy here, where I know a couple years earlier, this Grappler who's Lendet, and he was teamed with the Dirty White Boy, who was there were 2 Grapplers, it was a team. They were a big deal in Memphis, so I knew they were a big deal there. I also know Chris Champion, they were trying to make a big deal. I did not expect Chris Champion to win over the Grappler, though. Chris does pick up the win. I thought this was a good match. Match-wise, this is probably one of my favorite, if not favorite, match of the night. I'm giving this a 4. Next up, we get into the theme. Other than the Christmas Chaos mentioned earlier, we get a video from Eddie Marlin wishing everybody a Merry Christmas. And if you don't know who Eddie Marlin is, he's a longtime promoter, figurehead of Memphis Wrestling. So cool to see that little video. He would be the guy that would come out and make the stipulations, basically. If you're familiar with WWF, he's kind of Jack Tunney to Memphis. After that, we've talked about him a few times already. We finally get a match from him. Dirty White Boy versus TD Steele. I love this. I love the Dirty White Boy. I love his valet, the Dirty White Girl. And watching this back, it takes me back, and it takes me back at the time. In 1989, I was 12. And yes, I know I'm telling my age and saying exactly how old I am. The Dirty White Girl, to me, because I started seeing a lot more of this Memphis stuff right about this time. Dirty White Girl was a huge wrestling crush for me. She was right up there with Miss Elizabeth, with Missy Hyatt, a woman a little bit later. But she was one of my first real wrestling crushes, and just someone that I was enamored with, which you can't say. She was a beautiful woman. I want to say I seen pictures of her recently, and she's still a beautiful woman. And I know we're talking objectively, we're reviewing wrestling. I just like to give a little bit of personal insight there. Seeing her pictures in all of the wrestling magazines, seeing her on what I did see off of Memphis, she was someone that was a big, one of my big crushes, right up there with Kelly Bundy, Alyssa Milano, all of your standards for the late 80s for people of my generation. Just wanted to bring that out. So I always love seeing her here because it reminds me of that much simpler time. The thing of this is the match that they're promoting with Dirty White Boy and Chris Champion coming up is a 10 lashes where if White Boy wins, he gets to smack Champion with his belt 10 times. If Chris Champion wins, he gets to kiss the Dirty White Girl 10 times, which, problematic now, makes sense back then. During the match, Chris Champion comes out, steals a kiss from the Dirty White Girl, which enrages the Dirty White Boy. He picks up a win, goes ballistic. I like this segment a lot. I thought it was really good, even though it's a problematic gimmick now. For what it was and what the time was, it worked for me. I'm giving this a 4. Next up, we get another promo tying into our theme. Dutch Mantel wishes everybody a Merry Christmas from himself and Texas Dirt, which is Dutch's alter ego under a mask. So we get that too. Again, tying into the Christmas in July theme. Then we get a match with the, first we get an interview. It's the Master of Pain, who's the Undertaker, and his partner, the Soul Taker, which would go on to be Papa Shango, a.k.a. the Godfather, a.k.a. Kama Mustafa. This was great. You had Boss Winders out there and Nate the Rat, who are going to have a match at Christmas Chaos, and the winner gets to be the manager of these two guys. Nate the Rat, underrated ref. I think he did do some ref work. Underrated manager. Boss Winders, I never really liked either way. But Nate the Rat, I thought was awesome. So this is kind of cool seeing him there. This leads us right into a match, the Master of Pain versus the Big O. Master of Pain dominates. I'm giving the match a 4. I thought it was quite solid. Next up, we get a promo with Chris Champion, Dutch Mantel, and Bill Dundee, all talking about Christmas Chaos upcoming. So we're continuing to hype that. They never said what day it was, if it was going to be on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve the next day. So I'm willing to bet in the local areas, because this video had the commercials cut out, it may have put like a title screen that showed you what day it was going to be. Then we go into our main event, which is Bad Time number 1, yet another random mask gimmick, versus Superstar Bill Dundee. Bill Dundee pretty much mops the floor with him, shows you why Bill Dundee is revered as much as he is. Bill Dundee's a great wrestler. I'm giving this match a 4. Bill picks up the win. Overall, the show was highly entertaining, as they usually are. You are starting to see a little bit of the talent pool getting drained here, where different guys where Memphis started to become more of where the younger people would go to get a break instead of a destination. You are seeing that the time frame where they kind of melted in with Dallas, so there's all that historically. Good quality show in my opinion. I'm going to give it overall a 4. I do recommend going and watching the video again, which will be down here in the description, along with a link to our friend Bucky749's channel in the description, which you can follow on their side of the Christmas in July spectacular we're doing. I really enjoyed this again. I'm giving it a 4. I love seeing guys like Jeff Jarrett, Dustin Rhodes, Undertaker, The Godfather, well before they become stars. Well, Jarrod was sort of a star from the beginning, and so was Dustin. But seeing these guys before they became as big as they became was cool to see. Getting to see guys like the Dirty White Boy, Dutch Mantel, which are more territory stars. Older guys like the Grappler and Robert Fuller. You know, it's great seeing this combination of these kind of people at this time frame. Again, like I mentioned, I'm going to always love seeing something with the Dirty White Girl because it just puts a smile on my face even 30 plus years later. It's a great show. I highly recommend it. And if you made it to the end here, let's smash that like button, hit that share button, subscribe if you haven't. At the time of this recording, we're right at about 945 or so subscriptions. I'd like to make it to 1,000, so if you haven't subscribed, please smash that subscribe button. And also, if you made it to the end, let's leave a Merry Christmas in the comments. Again, I'm so honored that both Jeremy and the American Samurai have asked me to join in on this. This has been I really enjoy this. This has been really fun going back and theming this Christmas. It's put an extra smile on my face on stuff that I would already like. Adding that into it, putting a theme to it that's going to be fun for everybody, just gives it that extra cherry on the top. Again, with all that being said, my name is George Coles, and we've been walking in Memphis.